Sunday at midnight, along with the review and maybe 3.1. We'll just see how far we get today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over the Chapter 2 review that I sent you in an email Sunday night. And it's going to be all the questions that are going to be on your test will come from this review. They're just going to have different numbers. So what you need to remember is that you can work this review in Math Lab as many times as you want. It's only going to record your highest score. So if you take it once and you don't do good on it, take it again. That way, and you can take it over and over until you feel comfortable with the material. Because if you're comfortable with the material on the review, then you're going to be comfortable with the material on the test because it's the same exact problems, just with new numbers. Okay? So if you have printed off from the email that I sent you, the first problem says find the value of the remaining variable in the formula. Then it says use 3.14. Now remember, when we were talking about this problem, this information is not needed. 3.4 only works when we're talking about circles, which we won't ever do. So that's just like some extra material. Okay. It does give you the formula for a perimeter, which is perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Then it gives you this rectangle. This is the length, this is the width, and then it also tells you the length is 6 and the width is 4. Okay, so pretty much what you're doing is just filling in these numbers into this perimeter formula. Okay, so if I do that, I will have perimeter equals, this 2 is always there. It's part of your formula. So you're going to have 2 times whatever your length is, and it tells you that your length is 6. Then back to the formula, plus 2 times whatever your width is, and your width is 4. And then do this math. So let's see, perimeter equals 2 times 6 gives me 12. Plus 2 times 4 gives me 8. And then add the 12 and the 8 together to get the perimeter is 20. Okay, so that's how we'd work number 1. All right, number 2 says solve the equation. So it gives us an equation that it wants us to solve. And we did a lot of this in Chapter 2. So the equation is 7x minus 2. And then it's got an open parentheses, x minus 5, close, equals 5x plus 2. And it wants us to solve this. So remember, when you're solving an equation, there's several things that you look for first. If there's parentheses, you're going to need to get rid of those first. Okay, so I'm just going to bring down my equal sign right where it is. Remember, you always want to keep your equal sign in its same column. So what I'm going to distribute here is what is bumping up against the parentheses, which will be with its sign, that -2. So let's see, I'll drop down this 7x. If you're multiplying a number times a letter, the number and letter just hook together, right? -2 times x just gives me -2x. Then you've got -2 times -5, which is +10. I'm going to just drop this side down, 5x plus 2. Again, bringing down my equal. Now, on the left side of your equal sign, remember, anytime you see like terms that are on the same side of the equal symbol, you want to put those all in the same basket, right? That's what we call it, putting it all in the same basket. So I need to put the 7x minus 2x together, which leaves me with 5x. Bring down my plus 10. Just bringing down this other side, 5x plus 2. Now, bringing down my equal. So I have x's on both sides of my equation. So what I want to do is cancel really either one of them out. We usually say the small one, but actually they're the same. So it doesn't matter who we cancel out, because what's going to happen? If I subtract 5x here, I have to do the same thing over here. So that cancels over there, but it also canceled this one, right? If I subtracted 5x from both sides, both of the x's canceled. So then I need to say one of two things is going to happen. If all your x's cancel like this, your answer is either going to be no solutions or that null set, which is the 0 with the little line through it, or it's going to be all real numbers, and it just depends on what you have left. If you have left something that is not a true statement, like here, all I have left on the left side is 10. All I have left on the right side is 2, which is obviously not true, right? 10 does not equal 2, which means you're going to choose that one that says the solution is the null set, that bottom one, C. There is no answer to this problem because when you were solving it, both of your x's canceled each other out. Okay.
Is this number 1? Sorry, I just got on.
Yeah.
On the study for the study guide. Test.
Yes. We're
Okay.
doing that. This chapter 2 review. You should have gotten an email on Sunday night. But we're going to go through it. Now, when you do Math Lab, you're going to have kind of 2 assignments that go with it. You're actually going to have a chapter 2 review in Math Lab. And then right after the chapter 2 review, you'll have the chapter 2 test. The review is the one that you can take over and over until you get the best score you possibly can.
So this is like the review, what we're doing right now.
If you go to take the test, you'll only be able to take it once. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, number 3. All right, it gives us a formula. This is another one of those formula problems where it says area equals 1/2 H. Then it has open parenthesis, big B plus little b, close. Then it gives us 3 numbers that we can plug into this. It tells us that the A is 102, the capital B is 10, and the lowercase b is 7. So what we want to do is replace the A with 102, the capital B with 10, and the lowercase b with 7. And then it tells us it wants us to find or solve it for the unknown variable, which is going to be H. H is the only thing I don't have a number to put in for. So let's plug these numbers in first. So instead of A, I'm going to write 102 equals 1/2. I don't know what the H is, so I still have an H. Then I've got open parentheses. Inside there, I have the capital B, which now I know is 10, plus lowercase b, which now I know is 7. Okay, so now what we're going to do, let's see, I can, in these parentheses, I can put the 10 plus 7 together. So let's go ahead and add that together, and we'll just call that 17. So 102 equals 1/2 h times 17. Now we're to the point, we're trying to get this h by itself. The two numbers that are on the same side with the h that I need to get rid of are both hooked on to it, right? And anytime we're trying to get rid of a hooked on number, we get rid of it by dividing. And I can do either one of these first. I can either divide by 1/2 or I can divide by 17. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to get rid of that 17 now by dividing by 17. Since it's hooked on, means I have to do that to the other side. So let's see. Now I've got rid of the 17, so I just have 1/2 h. On the left, let's see, in my calculator, I'll do 102 divided by 17, which gave me 6. So now I have 1/2 h equals 6. So just like I got rid of the 17, since it was hooked on, I'm going to get rid of the 1/2 the same way. Since it's hooked on, I'm going to divide by 1/2, both sides. Now here's where we have to be careful. The 1/2s cancel, so there's my h by itself. Here's where you have to be careful. Remember how we were doing this in the calculator since we were dividing, and one of the parts of our division was a fraction. You wanted to put that fraction in parentheses in your calculator. Because if not, let me show you what it looks like. If I didn't put parentheses, I would have 6 divided by 1 divided by 2. Well, what that's going to tell your calculator to do is do the 6, then it's going to say divide that by 1, and then divide that by 2. We want to do 6. We want this 1/2 to be one number. So that's why we need to put the 1/2 in parentheses. So you'll do 6 divided by, then do open parentheses 1/2, which is 1 divided by 2. So that's telling the calculator to do 6 divided by 1/2. And then hit enter, which gives you 12. Okay? Giving us most of the hardest problems at the beginning, it looks like. All right, number 4. Solve the problem, give the equation using x as the variable, and then give the answer. So we're going to replace the variable with an x. This is where it gave us a sentence. And here, I'll just write the sentence in case you haven't, to remind us how we did this. 2 less than 4 times a number is equal to 10 more than 6 times the number. So remember, the first thing that we did was go through and find where we would put our equal symbol. So the words that you're looking for are is equal to, or is the same as, or amounts to. So this right here, this is equal to. That's going to be your equal symbol. So just go ahead and put it right in the middle. Because once you have your equal symbol placed, the part of the sentence that comes before that will come in front of your equal symbol. And the part of the sentence that comes after that will come after your equal symbol. Okay, so let's look at what comes in front. 2 less than 4 times a number. Anytime you have the multiplication words, which is times, you want to think about that first. So how would I write 4 times a number? Well, that a number, that's going to be your x, right? That's what you don't know, is what the number is. So 4 times a number would be 4x. If I'm 2 less than this, that means I need to subtract 2 from it. So there's what's in front of the sentence. Afterwards, you have 10 more than. More than means we're going to add. And what are we going to be adding to? 6 times the number. So again, 6 times the number will be 6x. If you're going to be doing, if you are 10 more than this 6x, that means you need to add 10 to it. So it's going to have a two-part of the question. The first thing is going to say the equation is, that's when you're going to write actually this equation that we just came up with. That's that part of the answer. Then the second part of the answer says the number is blank, which just means now I'm going to solve this equation that we just made. So let's see again, keep your equal symbol. I have x's on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and cancel my small one. Doesn't matter. You can cancel your 6x if you want. You'll come up with the same thing. If I cancel my small one, I'm subtracting 4x from both sides. So that gets rid of it. All I have left over here is this -2 equals, here's my 6x minus 4x, which now leaves me with 2x. Drop down to plus 10. Again, here's my equal symbol. Here's the x that I'm trying to get by itself. Now remember, the 10 needs to go away and the 2 needs to go away if the x is going to be by itself. And remember, who hangs on until the very end? The hooked on number. That number always goes away last. So I need to get rid of that plus 10 with a minus 10. So that gets rid of the plus 10. So here's my equal symbol again. Over here, I still have a 2x. Now be careful here. Don't mess up here after you've done all this work. -2 minus 10. If the temperature is -2 and drops 10 more, now it is -12. Hooked on number means to divide by 2. So my 2's cancel. There's my x all alone. And -12 divided by +2. Again, if you're not sure, punch that in your calculator. -12 divided by 2 gives you -6. Okay? Number 5. Okay, this is the one that we had trouble with on the day that we covered it, and my students in previous semesters always have trouble with this one. It's another perimeter problem, and it gives you the rectangle. And it says this side of the rectangle, which is the length, is 2w plus 2. This side of the rectangle is the width, and it's just w. Okay, so these right here, that's the length and the width. It tells me that the perimeter of this rectangle is 40 meters. So it wants me to find from this information what this side's length is and this side's width is. So remember earlier on number 1, it gave you the formula for perimeter. So the perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So let's see, we know what P is. We know it's 40. Now, I don't see anything that says L, but I know that that's my width. It tells me that this is the length. So that's actually my length. So just so that my equation is going to have all one letter in it instead of 2 separate letters, I'm going to say instead of L, I'm going to write my L as 2w plus 2. So let's see. Here's part of the formula, this 2. Times, instead of L, I'm going to write that as 2w plus 2. So that takes care of 2 times the length, right? 2 times, that's the length, plus 2 times the width, which will be 2 times the width. Well, the width is just w. So now, this equation only has one letter, which means I can, if you only have one unknown letter in your equation, that means you can find that letter. I can find out what W is by getting the W by itself. So the first thing I need to do is remove these parentheses. So let's see, over here I've got the 40 equals, on the right side, 2 times 2w gives me 4w, plus 2 times 2 gives me 4, plus 2 times w gives me 2w. So here's my equal sign. Look at the right side. There's a 4w and there's a 2w on the same side. So put them all in the same basket to be 6w. Again, just drop down that plus 4. Over here, I've got a 40. So look how close I am to getting this w by itself. I need to get rid of the plus 4 with a minus 4. So now I have 6w is all that's left over there. 40 minus 4 gives me 36. So all I have left to get this w by itself is divide by 6. So now what do you know that w equals? Well, once I divide that by 6, that 6 cancels. And over here, 36 divided by 6 is 6. So now I know that w is 6. And what does w represent? W represents this side right here. Since it's just w, now I know that side is 6. Well, if you know what w is, Don't you also know what this side is? Well, how much is W? What did I just find? I found out that this W is really 6. So if I plug that in, I'll have 2 times 6 plus 2, which gives me 12 plus 2, which gives me 14. So the width is 6 and the length is 14. Now, also what you're going to have to remember on this one, this is the one, so you would put the width of the rectangle is, that's where you would put your 6. And then right after that, it's going to give you a little drop down thing to choose from, which will have these options. It's always just going to be m. It's not ever going to be m to the second or m to the third. Then it'll say the length of the rectangle is, well, we just found out that it's 14. And again, it will be m. Okay? All right, number 6. This one's just a regular equation. All right, solve the equation. 8x minus 10 equals 3x. Okay? So let's see. Where's your equal sign? It's important on this one that you keep it in its spot. So let's see. 8x minus 10 equals 3x. So I'm already to the point where I have x's on both sides. So I'm going to cancel out my small one. Now be careful with this one. I'm going to subtract the 3x from both sides. Over here I have 8x minus 3x, which is 5x. Bring down the minus 10. Your equal is in the same spot, right? You can't just move it around. What is left on the right side of that equal symbol? There's actually nothing, right? There is 0. You canceled it all off. So just write the number 0 over there and continue getting this x by itself. Which means don't get rid of the hooked on number till the end. So I need to get rid of the minus 10 with the plus 10. So now I have 5x equals 10. Since it's hooked on, I'll divide by this 5 to get x equals 2. All right, number 7. Number 7, x minus 9 equals 5. So this is back literally from day 1. Getting x by, it just says solve for x. So getting x by itself, which means the only thing I need to do is get rid of that minus 9 with its opposite. So I'll just add 9 to both sides to get x equals 14. And you're done. right, number 8, 5x plus 2x equals 63. So again, here's my equal. On the left side of the equal, they're both x's, which means I need to put them in the same basket. I actually have 7 x's over here. Drop down my 63. To get rid of the hooked on 7, I'll just need to divide both sides by 7. To cancel it, so there's my x equals, when you divide this side by 7, you get 63 divided by 7, which is 9. Right, number 9. X equals 64. Again, from early on, if here's my equal sign and I'm trying to get x by itself, the only thing that needs to go away is that 8. And since it's hooked on, you'll just make it go away by dividing by it, right? All hooked on numbers go away by division. So there's my x equals 64 divided by 8, which just gives me 8. That's it for that one. Okay, number 10. This is when we were getting into the last things that we were doing with the number lines and the interval notation that had open parentheses and brackets and things like that. Okay, so let's see. It says -5 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 4. Now, remember, even though it's going to ask you for the interval first and then give you the multiple choice to find the correct number line, I always draw the number line first, because once you have the number line, the interval actually just comes straight off of the number line. So the numbers that need to be represented are the numbers that are showing. I also always put a 0 on mine just to kind of give myself where the negatives should be and the positives should be. So if there's 0, let's see, -5, all the negative numbers are on this side of 0. So I'll just put the -5 here. 4 also needs to be represented, and since it's positive, I'll put it over there. Now, remember, this says since x is actually in between -5 and 4, that's what we're going to show. All this in between -5 and 4 is what's going to be shaded in. Now we just need to decide whether or not the -5, because remember, you have to have opening and closing symbols. So I just need to decide whether or not they are parentheses or brackets. So remember, what decides that is whether or not you have this. If you do have that equal symbol, that means the number you're associated with will have a bracket. If you do not have the equal symbol, this number that is associated with this symbol will have a parentheses. So equal symbol, bracket. No equal symbol, parentheses. Now, here is the reason that I always do the number line first. You're going to have to choose it in a minute off of your multiple choice part of this question anyway. But now that you have it, this right here is your interval answer. It wants open parenthesis with the -5, comma, 4, bracket. That's the interval that it wants in this part of your answer. Whoops. And when you're doing this, use the keyboard for these symbols. Use the keyboard on your computer to type in the parenthesis and the bracket around those. Now, the second part is you're going to choose the multiple choice that matches this. So an open parenthesis on -5 and a closed bracket on 4. So open parenthesis on -5, closed bracket on 4, which would be that C one. Okay, number 11. All right, another inequality. X minus 4 is greater than or equal to -10. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get this X by itself. Okay, so let's see, we treat it just like an equation. Get rid of that -4 with a +4. So let's see, bringing down this X, bring down my symbol, -10 + 4, either punch that in or again, think of it like temperature. If you are at -10, but you come up 4 degrees, you're now at -6. So now I'm going to put this on my number line. Again, the only number that's represented in this one is -6, right? I didn't have 2 symbols with 2 numbers on this one. I just had 1 symbol. So let's see, this -6 is what I need to represent. So I'll put my 0 here, which means my -6 is down here. Now, your arrow is going to go the same direction as this symbol. So since that symbol is pointing to the right, my arrow is going to point to the right. Now I just need to decide if my -6 is going to have a parenthesis or a bracket on it. And since it's an equal, it does have the equal to bar, that means it's going to have the bracket. So again, that's how you would choose. And remember, when you're choosing these multiple choice, since it has a bracket, the first thing I would do is go take out these 2, right? Since those have parentheses. So then you're down to brackets. And then you just have to decide which way the arrow's going. Since the arrow's going to the right, that's why you would pick this C, the one with the arrow going to the right. And then it says, here's where it wants to write your interval answer. So when I'm looking at this number line, this is my interval answer, an open bracket with the -6. Now this one doesn't have a closing symbol on it like our last one did. Our X isn't between 2 numbers. This says X is greater than -6, which means it goes forever this way. And what does that mean when it goes forever one way? If it's going forever to the right, it's going to infinity, which is that sideways 8. Again, that sideways 8 will be in Math Lab down there where you type in your answer. You'll see a sideways 8. And infinities always have parentheses. They don't ever have brackets. Okay? All right, number 12, solving an irregular equation. I have x plus 10 equals negative, then open parentheses 3x plus 3 So here's my equal. On the right side, I have parentheses that need to go away. So I need to decide what is bumping up against this. Okay, bumping up against it is, you can think of that as being a -1. So that's what you're multiplying through there. So let's see what that gives me. -1 times 3x. So -1 times +3 just gives me -3x. Here, -1 times +3 is another -3. I'm just going to drop this down. So now, here's my equal. I'm looking at both sides. I notice I have x's on separate sides. So I'm going to cancel this one on the right out. Since it's a -3x, I'm going to cancel it out with a +3x. Since I did it here, I'll have to do it over here. So let's see what I have over here. Since this is just an x, it's represented by a 1x, right? So when I add these two together, I will have 4x. Drop down my +10 equals, on this side, just drop down your -3. So now, here's my equal. So let's see, getting this x by itself. So I need to get rid of the +10 with a -10. To cancel it. So over here, I have a 4x equals, over here, -3 minus 10. Again, think about your temperature. If you are -3 degrees and you drop 10 more, then you are at -13. So one more step to get that x by itself. Since the 4 is hooked on, I will divide by it. So let's see, I have x equals this -13 over 4. So it doesn't divide evenly, but you do need to check to see if it will reduce. Now ours doesn't, but the way you would tell that is, remember our math inner function on our calculator. Just type in -13 divided by 4. When you hit enter, you'll get some kind of crazy decimal, and then hit math, enter. It still tells me -13 over 4, which means that was in simplest form. If it wasn't, it would have reduced it right there to its simplest form. Okay? All right, moving on to number 13. All right, let's see. Okay, so it's another one where they give us a sentence and ask us to translate it. So it says, if 3 is added to 4 times a number, the result is equal to 7 more, I can't read it backwards, 7 more than 3 times the number. So let's see. If 3 is added to 4 times a number, the result is equal to. So there's going to be my equal sign. So let's see what's in front of is equal to. 3 is added to 4 times a number. So I would write the 4 times a number, which is the 4x. If I'm adding 3 to this, it will just add 3 to it. And then after that, it says the result is equal to 7 more than 3 times the number. So 3 times the number and 7 more than that. So 3 times the number gives you the 3x. 7 more means you would add 7 to that. So it gives you a multiple choice to choose the equation. And then it wants you to solve it. So let's see if my equal symbol is here. Getting rid of this 3x since I have x's on both sides. So I'm going to get rid of that. Over on the left, 4x minus 3x just leaves you with 1x. Bring down my plus 3 equals, the only thing left over on the right is the 7. So again, here's my equal symbol. All I have to do now to get this x by itself is get rid of that plus 3 with a minus 3. That gets rid of that. There's your x equals, over here, 7 minus 3 gives you 4. Okay, number 14 is another inequality, which means a less than or greater than problem. This time it says negative 6x is less than 42. So the first thing that needs to happen is the x needs to be alone, and it's got a negative 6 hooked onto it this time. So if I've got a negative 6 hooked on, that means I've got to divide both sides by that negative 6. And remember what happens when you're dealing with inequalities and you divide by a negative. This symbol turns around anytime you divide by a negative. So now I'm going to have an x, turn my symbol from less than to greater than, and then 42 divided by negative 6 gives me negative 7. Okay, then it wants your interval notation, and then it's going to want you to pick out the number line. Again, I always do the number line first. So let's see, the only number that needs to be represented is the negative 7. I'm using this arrow, so my arrow is pointing to the right, so that's the way I'll draw my arrow. Then I decide whether or not this has a parenthesis or a bracket. Since it doesn't have the equal to bar, that means it has a parenthesis. And the arrow going forever to the right means it's going to infinity. So here's my interval. Open parenthesis with the negative 7 to infinity. And infinities always have parentheses. All right, number 15. X plus 1/12 equals negative 5/6. Okay, so remember, this does have fractions, but remember, our calculator does this for us. If you don't have the calculator, but you do have a phone, remember, you can get the Calculator X app on your phone that puts the TI-84 app on your phone. Because the only thing I need to do to get this X alone is to get rid of that plus 1/12 with a minus 1/12 on both sides. It gets rid of the plus 1/12. So here's my x equals. So this is what traditionally is the hard part, right? We have to do -5/6 minus 1/12. Well, now I can just type that into my calculator. Tell it exactly what you want to do. You want to do, remember your negative button is the one below the 3. So -5/6. So 5 divided by 6. And then minus 1/12. So your minus button, 1/12. Okay, and I think some of y'all also know how to do that other fraction way, which is completely fine. Hit enter. Remember, you're gonna, if you get a crazy decimal, just hit math, enter for that to get your answer, which would be -11/12. So the calculator does all of that hard fraction work for you. All right, 16. Is another inequality, but it's one that's already solved. X is less than or equal to -5. So it just wants us to write this interval and then put it in the number line. So again, nothing to solve. The X is already by itself. So if this is my number line, -5 will be over here. Okay, which way does your arrow go? It goes to the left. So just like this arrow, that's the way this arrow will go, to the left. Since it has the equal to bar, I'm going to have a bracket on the -5. This time it's going forever this way. I don't see a closing symbol. If it's going forever this way, it goes all the way to -infinity. And remember, infinities always have parentheses around them. So here's your interval. It has the open parentheses with the -infinity. And then the -5 with the closing bracket. Okay? All right, number 17. (8x plus 48) equals 3x minus 12. Okay, so again, here's my equal symbol, just solving a regular equation here. So let's see, I have x's on both sides. So I'm going to get rid of this one over here on the right. So I'm going to get rid of the positive 3x with a minus 3x. If I do it here, I'm going to have to do it here. So that gets rid of the 3x on the right. On the left, I have 8x minus 3x, which is 5x. Bring down my plus 48 equals, all I have left over here on the right is -12. So let's see, getting this x by itself, I need to get rid of this plus 48 with a minus 48. So now all I have left over here is the 5x. Now remember, if you want to type this in, tell your calculator exactly what you want to know. You want to know what negative 12 minus 48 is. Well, tell it that. Here's your negative. So negative 12, then minus 48. So negative 12 minus 48 gives me negative 60. And then the 5 that's hooked on, you'll divide by it. So dividing both sides by 5. Again, if you did that last part in your calculator, you have the negative 60 already there. Now you just need to hit divided by 5, because if you hit divided by right now, it's going to say whatever your last answer is, divide it by, and then you would tell it 5 to get negative 12. All right, number 18. All right, solve this equation. Negative 6 equals t minus 18. So remember, all you're trying to do is get the t by itself, right? Get whatever letter it is by itself. The only thing that needs to go away for this t to be alone is that minus 18. So all I have to do to solve this is do the add 18 to both sides. So here's my equal. That minus 18 plus 18 canceled, so there's my t all alone. And again, if you want to type that in, that negative 6 plus 18, that's exactly what you tell your calculator. Remember, the negative is below the 3, so negative 6 and then plus 18 to get 12. Okay, number 19. This is the one that we worked. Oh, I can't remember. It was last week. I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Thursday. It was that word problem that had about the Democrats and the Republicans and how many were in each. And it says the U.S. Senate has 100 members total. After a certain election, there were 10 more Democrats than Republicans, with no other parties represented. How many members of each party were there in the Senate? So the Senate is made up of Democrats and Republicans. And when you add both parties together, you should equal 100 because there's 100 all together. So what this tells me is that there's 10 more in this group than there is in the Republican group. So 10 more Democrats than Republicans. So what I know is I don't know anything at all about how many Republicans there are. So I'm just going to call those X. What I know about the Democrats is they have all of the same amount as the Republicans plus 10 more. Right? They have 10 more than the Republicans. If I add the Democrats, which are X plus 10, to the Republicans, which are X, it should equal 100. So here's what you have. Now you have an equation with just X's represented. So let's look. Here's my equal symbol. On this side of the equal symbol, I see multiple X's, so I want to put them in the same basket. I see that one X here and one X here, so I actually have two X's on the left. Bring down my plus 10 equals 100. So if I'm getting this x by itself, I need to get rid of that plus 10 with a minus 10. So now I have 2x here equals 100 minus 10, which gives me 90. Solving for x, so I just need to divide by 2. So all I have left here is the x equals, on the right, 90 divided by 2 gives me 45. So what is this telling me? If x is 45, remember who x was. X was our Republicans, and x plus 10 were our Democrats. So now I know that x, which is your Republicans, is 45, which means your Democrats, which are x plus 10, which means this number plus 10, which would just give you 55. So again, those numbers add to 100, and the Democrats have 10 more than the Republicans. All right, last one. Another inequality. Nine x plus 2 is less than 8x minus 1. Okay, so here's my symbol. I'll just bring it down. I have x's on both sides. So if I have x's on both sides, I'm going to cancel out that one on the left. I mean, not the one on the left. I'm sorry. The one on the right side of this inequality. So subtracting 8x from both sides. So over here I have 9x minus 8x, which is just 1x. Bring down my plus 2. Bring down my less than symbol. There's my negative 1 over there. So let's see, if I'm getting x by itself, I just need to get rid of that plus 2 with a minus 2 on both sides. So all I have left over here is the x. There's my less than symbol. Here, negative 1 minus 2 gives me negative 3. So remember, it's going to want you to put in not this answer, but the interval answer. So let's do our number line first. There's our 0. Here's my negative 3. Remember, just draw your arrow the same way that this arrow is pointing. So if I draw my arrow the same way this one's pointing, it's going to go to the left. Then decide whether or not you need a bracket or a parenthesis. So let's see. Since I don't have an equal to bar, it's going to have a parenthesis. If the arrow goes forever to the left, it's going all the way to negative infinity down there. And infinities always have parentheses. So let's see. My interval would be negative infinity to negative 3, and both of them had the parentheses. Okay? Okay, so I will stay live here for anybody that has questions. Let me take roll.